जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी। जय राधे हरि। जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना। यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना। यमुना तीरावनचारी। यमुना तीरावनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना। यमुना तीरावनचारी। यमुना तीरावनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी। जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम। कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम। जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय। गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय। जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 प्रभुपाद। जय मिश्रपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकचरेष्ठोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद डिवाइन ग्रेस श्री भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय मिश्रपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकचरेष्ठोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद डिवाइन ग्रेस श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्-भागवतम की जय। श्री श्री कृष्ण बलराम की जय। श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय। जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 23, Devahuti's Lamentation, text number 48. Ataha sa sushuve sadyaha. Ataha sa sushuve sadyo. Ataha sa sushuve sadyo. Devahutihi striyaha prajaha. Devahutihi striyaha prajaha. Devahutihi striyaha prajaha. Sarvaha taha charu sarva angyo. Charu sarvangyo. Lohita utpala gandhayaha. Lohitotpala gandhayaha. Lohitotpala gandhayaha. Ataha sa shushuve sadyo. Devahutihi striya prajaha. Sarvastascharu sarvangyo. Lohitotpala gandhayaha. Ataha sa sushuve sadyo. Devahutihi striya prajaha. Sarvastascharu sarvangyo. Lohitotpala gandhayaha.
Sarvastascharu sarvangyo. Lohitotpala gandhayaha. Sadyo Devahuti striya praja. Sarvastascharu sarvangyo. Lohitotpala gandhayaha. Devahuti striya praja. Sarvastascharu sarvangyo. Lohitotpala gandhayaha.
Ataha, then, sa, she, sushuve, gave birth, sadhyaha, on the same day, devahutihi, devahuti, striyaha, females, prajaha, prajani, sarvaha, all, taha, they, charu sarva angyaha, charming in every limb, lohita, red, utpala, like the lotus, gandhayaha, fragrant. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Immediately afterward, on the same day, Devahuti gave birth to 9 female children, all charming in every limb and fragrant with the scent of the red lotus flower. Kindly repeat. Immediately afterward, on the same day, Devahuti gave birth to 9 female children, all charming in every limb and fragrant with the scent of the red lotus flower. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Devahuti was too sexually excited, and therefore she discharged more ova, and 9 daughters were born. It is said in the Smriti Shastra as well as in the Ayurveda that when the discharge of the male is greater, male children are begotten. But when the discharge of the female is greater, female children are begotten. It appears from the circumstances that Devahuti was more sexually excited, and therefore she had 9 daughters at once. All the daughters, however, were very beautiful, and their bodies were nicely formed. Each resembled a lotus flower and was fragrant like a lotus. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanachalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mokam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Mande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. A controversy erupted recently when one Muslim MP, he is an elected representative of the people, he made a statement. He made a controversial statement. There has been a lot of talk going on about how the rate at which the Muslim population is growing is too high. And while the other religions people, a couple, a husband and wife, they have 1 or 2 children at the most. The Muslim families, they have many more children. And so, they ascribe a sinister motive behind this. That the Muslims want to increase their population so much so that they can take over the country and all such things. So, probably in response to that, this Muslim MP, he said that Hindus, they marry very late. They marry at 35 years, 40 years. So therefore, for them to beget children is very difficult. Muslims marry early, 18 years girl, the boy 19, maximum 20 years they marry, and so they are able to beget many children. So Hindus, you also start marrying early. So you see how your population grows. And that became a major controversy. Of course, he said some more unpalatable things. So, because of it, it became a big controversy, and all kinds of political leaders and everybody started banging this man. So, finally, he issued an apology, and he said, I am ashamed by what I said. I apologize for what I said. So, although, of course, he apologized, being a gentleman, that is good of him. But what he said is partially right also. From the medical science perspective, the later a man and a woman try to conceive children, the more difficult it becomes. So naturally, when it becomes more difficult, the number of children who are born are also lesser. But of course, most families today, they want to plan their family in such a way that they don't want to have more than 1 or 2 children, because rearing children is not easy. There is so much expense involved. If you look at school education, college education, they have all become so expensive. Cost of living has gone so high. So naturally, people don't want to have more children also. That is also another reason. So whether it is the people who are accusing the Muslims of increasing the population by too much, or the Muslims who are trying to justify giving the age as another criterion, all of them are under the same misconception that the birth of the children that happens is because of the lusty attraction between a man and a woman. Actually, Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita, he talks about this kind of conception. So, Bhagavad-gita, Krishna has spoken about this conception that lust is the only cause of procreation. Krishna has spoken about this 5,000 years ago. That means even at that time, this kind of misconception was there. So, Krishna says, Asatyam apratishtam ahurte aniswaram, jagadahur aniswaram. And so Krishna says, there is one class of people who say that asatyam, this whole world that we see around us, there is no truth behind it. It is asatyam, there is no higher truth, there is no absolute truth behind it. Whatever you are seeing, that's it. Asatyam apratishtam, and there is no foundation for this whole world, whole creation. It has all happened by chance. It is not that asatyam apratishtam. It is not that there is a foundational cause behind this whole thing, there is a purpose behind this creation. There is no such thing. Aparaspara sambhutam. There is no other cause behind your and my existence than kimanyat kamahaitukam, than the lusty attraction between a male and a female. Some long ago, one male and female primates were there, two monkeys were there, they got attracted to each other sexually, and so their children were born, and there also that sexual attraction continued, and gradually over a period of time the monkeys evolved into human beings, etc., etc. So their whole reasoning is that our existence, the cause of our existence is only the lusty attraction between a male and female. There is no other reason behind our existence. So Krishna says that this kind of thinking, this kind of conception is actually a demoniac conception. The demons who want to negate the existence of the Supreme Lord, they do not accept that there is a cause behind this material creation. There is a supreme living entity behind our existence, behind our creation. That God is there behind this creation, and He has created this material world with a certain purpose in mind. This the demoniac atheists refuse to accept. And so they give all sorts of convoluted, illogical explanations that how evolution and attraction between man and between male and female, and just that attraction between the male and female is the result of the law of what is that? The law of the struggle for existence. So there is an innate law of material nature called the struggle for existence, by which what happens is the force of lust is created so that procreation will go on and the race and that species will continue to exist. So all these kind of explanations they will give to try to justify that behind this creation there is no God. Actually, if you analyze a little deeply, you will find how hollow this argument is. First of all, if there is a law of, if there exists such a law of existence, law of the struggle for existence, a law of preservation of species, if all these kind of laws exist, laws do not come into existence on their own. There must be somebody who has created that law. There must be a lawmaker. Not only that, if lust is alone the cause of creation, lust is alone the cause of birth of living entities, it fails to explain why there is so much variety in this world. A dog and a female and a male dog also get attracted to each other by lust. But their product is another dog only. You will not find if the theory is that simply because of lust two living entities they united, and because of that procreation happened. If that was the case, then there should have been only one species existing. Why so many different species are existing? Not only that, within the species also, there are different kinds of statuses of existence. Somebody is born as the son of a very rich businessman, and somebody is born in a very poor family. Somebody is born very intelligent, somebody is born dull-headed. Somebody is born very beautiful, somebody is born very ugly. So why so much variety? If lust alone is the cause of somebody's taking birth, then there should be no variety. We generally see when there is a mechanical way of production, like let us say there is an assembly line in a factory, and mechanically there is a robot which goes on assembling the different components of a product and brings out a product. What will be the product that comes out? It will all be of one kind. You will not have variety there, unless you program the robot to create multiple different kinds of products with different components. But then, unless it is designed like that, if you keep a robot and give a certain components and let it produce the product, it will produce the same kind of product. That is the mechanical way of production. So, if children are also born, whether it is animals or human beings or plants or whatever it is, if they are also born simply because of the lusty attraction between a male and a female, there is no reason for so much variety to exist in terms of form, in terms of one's status, in terms of one's health and physicality, etc. There is so much variety we see in this world. So the reality is that lust is not the real cause of procreation. In fact, if lust alone were the cause of procreation, every time a man and a woman have sex, it should result in children. But that doesn't happen. Why do so many fertility clinics come up? Why do we have IUI and IVF and all these kind of treatments to treat people for their fertility issues so that couples can be helped to conceive and to beget children? If lust were the thing, then every time the man and woman have sex, children should be born. But so many people face difficulty. And there are people who, even after undergoing all these treatments, they are unable to get children. Just like there was a news about how in the United States, a couple, they were trying to have children since many years, but they were unsuccessful. So they went to the best hospital and they underwent the IVF treatment. You know, that's the most modern technique and everybody talks about it. They underwent that IVF not once, not twice, 16 times, and still they did not get children. So, if you know, even with that all the medical intervention, still children are not born. This is because the lusty attraction between a man and a woman and simply they're engaging in sexual intercourse is not the real cause of the birth of the children. The children, there is a higher arrangement. The karmana daiva netrena jantur dehopapattaye. Shri Krishna. For a living entity to take a body and take birth, there is a higher arrangement, a divine arrangement. Karmana daiva netrena. Daiva netrena, by divine arrangement, there is the law of karma created, by which living entities are accorded different bodies, and the living entities are made to take shelter of a particular mother, and accordingly they get a particular type of body. So this is, and since everyone's activities are different, since everybody's karmas are different, they get different types of body. Somebody gets a demigod body, somebody gets a human body, somebody gets a cat body, somebody gets a dog body, somebody gets a plant body. So, according to the karma, one gets different bodies, and in that also, in that species also, again according to one's karma, one may get a beautiful body, one may get an ugly body, one may get an intelligent body, one may get an unintelligent body. All these varieties come about because the activities of each individual is different, and accordingly the result is also different. So, the real fact is that for a child to be born, there has to be a divine arrangement which makes it, which allows that to happen. So that is why what happens is a man and a woman engage in sexual intercourse just because of lusty desire, and they have no intention to beget children, and still the woman becomes pregnant and she delivers children. On the other hand, a husband and wife may desire to have children, and they may engage in sexual intercourse multiple times, but still they will not get children. So you see how actually begetting children is not in the hands of anybody. Even the doctors, they may also help you with IVF, IUI, etc., etc. So many techniques, they may give you so many medicines, so many things they may do. But still, even they have no control over whether the couple will really, they will conceive or not. So, the argument that procreation or childbirth happens simply because of the lusty attraction between a man and a woman, actually it does not, it is not logical. It will not be able to explain the practical phenomena that we observe in the material world. So, living entities like cats and dogs are also producing children. Now, if human beings also simply produce children without any proper spiritual planning about what kind of children I want, then the children who will be born will also be animalistic. An animal like a cat or a dog, they engage in sexual intercourse simply because of the lusty attraction. They have no planning what kind of children to have, whether we should have children, not have. They have no family planning at all. They just, it happens. So, if amongst human beings also, if they beget children like this, what will happen? The consciousness of the husband and the wife at the time of conceiving the child actually goes on to become the consciousness of the child. If the child is conceived simply because of the lusty attraction between a man and a woman, the child who will be born will also be imbued with lusty desires. He will see everything in a lusty manner. Actually, modern day world, if we can see how people are becoming more and more lusty. Every other day you can see people are becoming so lusty. The men are going and raping women in the open. Why? Because they are not able to control their lusty desires. They are not even sparing small children. Such cases are going on rising. Now people don't know what is the reason behind this. So they say, no, sex education has to be there. Gender sensitivity has to be imparted to the people. All this you can do. It will not subdue the lusty desires which awaken in the heart of a man. Why are modern day people like this? This India is the same land where great rishis and sages who followed strict brahmacharya were produced. But today if you see, who is there who can remain a brahmachari for life? Everybody is controlled by the lusty sex desires. Why? Because they were begetted by their parents without following the Garbhadana Samskara, and simply out of lusty desires, they united and the children were born. People have forgotten that there is a Garbhadana Samskara, there is a specific time at which the husband and wife have to unite, and there is a procedure for doing all this so that they can beget children of a certain particular consciousness. Garbhadana Samskara is so scientific. According to the day of choosing, the the husband and wife can choose whether they want a female child or a male child. They can even decide whether the child should be having spiritual qualities, or he should be having qualities of a leader, or he should be somebody who has a lot of desire for gaining wealth. You can, the nature of the child who is conceived depends on the time at which the husband and the wife, they choose for procreation. So Garbhadana Samskara is so scientific. The parents, according to their inclination, what kind of child they want, if they follow the proper Garbhadana Samskara, they can beget children of such good quality. So we can see in the case of Kardama Muni, being a great devotee of the Lord, he and Devahuti did not engage in sexual intercourse simply to satisfy their lusty desires. Lusty desires will be there in the heart, but then they controlled that lusty desire and outtailed it, and as it was mentioned in the previous verse, that Karda Mumuni, when he found the proper time, he impregnated Devahuti, and what was the result? The result was 9 daughters were born. And what is fascinating is the quality of the daughters. They were all charming in every limb. They were charu sarvangyaha. They were beautiful in every limb. And they were fragrant with the scent of the red lotus. Lohitotpala gandhayaha. Utpala means lotus. Lohitaha means red color. So Lohita Utpala Gandhayaha. Their bodies were fragrant like the red lotus. Imagine. So these are extraordinary, what we are hearing, these are all extraordinary things. No human being is born with the fragrance, with a natural fragrance of the red lotus. Isn't it? So, but then, in the case of Karda Mumuni, what we have to understand is, not only did he follow the process of Garbhadana Samskara, he was also a great devotee of the Lord. He had darshan of Vishnu personally. So, in the case of a devotee, there are even higher principles which are acting. In the case of normal human beings, when they follow the process of Garbhadana, Garbhadana Samskara, they can beget children of a particular quality. But even to beget children of that quality, they have to undergo so much distress. It's not easy. The mother has to carry the child in the womb for 9 months, and the process of childbirth is also so painful. Then rearing the children, so much difficulty is involved in all this. But when it comes to a devotee, in the case of a devotee, the activities of eating, sleeping, mating and defending are there even in a devotee's life. Even in the life of an animal also, the activity of eating, sleeping, mating and defending is there. It is there in the life of normal karmis also, normal human beings also. It is there in the life of a devotee also. But the difference is to satisfy the urges of eating, sleeping, mating and defending. The common people, those who are non-devotees, have to undertake so much difficulty. Whereas when a devotee undergoes the processes of eating, sleeping, mating and defending, those activities are shown of all the material distresses associated with them. And that is why you see Devahuti also a great devotee, because she was serving a pure devotee, Karda Mumuni, and she desired that I should have children, and therefore she united with her husband, and her desire was fulfilled by the Supreme Lord in such a way that the children were born. Ataha sa sushuve sadhyaha. The same day she conceived, she gave birth to the children. She did not have to take the trouble of carrying the children in her womb for 9 months. No, not required. So why she has to take so much distress? The Lord said, you want children? No, take the children. Immediately give birth so that you don't have to undergo the distress. So her desire is fulfilled. At the same time, she doesn't have to undergo all the problems, material distresses associated with fulfilling those desires in the normal course of activities. So, in the case of a devotee, that is why Krishna also says in the Bhagavad-gita, Yogakshemam Vahamyaham. For a devotee, Krishna provides what they lack and he carries what they already have. Krishna actually does not allow the laws of material nature to act in the case of a devotee. In the case of a devotee, in the case of a non-devotee, those who are not devotees of Krishna, if they have some material desire and if they have to fulfill that material desire, they have to earn the karma, they have to earn the punya to be able to fulfill that desire. And earning punya is not easy. You have to undertake the process of dana, tapasya, vrata, so many austerities, difficulties you have to undertake. So if you want 10 grams of happiness, you have to take 10 kgs of distress, then it will give you the happiness you are looking for. That's the nature of the material world. This is the normal process by which non-devotees have to undertake in order to be able to enjoy sense gratification in the material world, to be able to fulfill their desires. Whereas when a devotee like Devahuti desires something material, Krishna Yogakshemam Vahamiham, Krishna personally satisfies that desire. And because Krishna is personally taking charge, he ensures that the devotee doesn't have to undergo material distresses. So Krishna fulfills the desires of his devotees without their having to undergo the normal process according to the laws of material nature to acquire punya and all these kind of things. Just like we saw how Karada Mumuni also, he wanted to take his wife on a vacation. And so, therefore, he simply with his yogic power, he created an aeroplane and went to all the Devalokas and came back. He did not have to work hard and attain the punya to go to the Svargaloka and then take his wife. He didn't have to do all that. Similarly, Devahuti also, she desired children. Same day she conceived, same day children are born. So this is extraordinary. So these extraordinary pastimes are enacted by the devotees to establish to the world that the devotees of Krishna are beyond the laws of material nature. They are not under the control of the three modes of material nature. So, although a devotee may engage in activities of eating, sleeping, mating and defending, externally it might look like the devotee is doing the same thing what everybody else is doing. But because of the transcendental consciousness of the devotee, the quality of all those actions also changes. It changes from material to spiritual. And therefore, when we look at the life and activities of Karada Mumuni, we can clearly see how Karada Mumuni and Devahuti externally engaged in activities just like the lusty affairs between a man and a woman in the ordinary world. But the result, when we analyze the result, when we weigh their activities in terms of the results they got, how the children were born on the same day that they were conceived, and how Karada Mumuni was able to go to all the Svargalokas at will, just like the air travels all over the universe. When we look at all the results of their actions, we can understand that their activities are not ordinary. So therefore, when a pure devotee engages in any activity, we should not try to judge it on material terms. We have to understand that all such activities of the devotees, pure devotees, are transcendental. So, one businessman, one donor businessman in India, he met Srila Prabhupada. I think it was in Bombay. He met Prabhupada and he told Prabhupada, Prabhupada, I have got a wonderful idea by which if there is one business activity, I'll tell you, I'll share with you. And if you do that business, you can earn a lot of money and you can build the temple very fast. So Prabhupada replied, I have so many ideas by which I can make a lot of money. But if I tell my disciples to do all those things, they will think, what is this? I came here for spiritual life and my spiritual master is engaging me again in business. So they will not be able to understand. Therefore, I am not engaging them. I am allowing them to engage in normal spiritual activities, so-called, in that way. So the fact is that, see how Prabhupada was so careful. Whatever Prabhupada would do, it will always be transcendental only. It will always have a spiritual reasoning behind it. But but Prabhupada was so careful that his disciples were not on a maturity level spiritually to be able to understand the spiritual reasoning behind whatever Prabhupada says. And so therefore Prabhupada was very careful not to engage in activities which would disturb his devotees. Not only that, we can also see how when Prabhupada was trying to get that land in Juhu from that one Mr. Nair, he put so many obstacles on the path. He cancelled the agreement, he brainwashed the devotees, all that happened. And the devotees who were actually spearheading that whole campaign to get that land, there were two devotees. One was Tamal Krishna and another was Shyamasundar. These were the two people who were engaged. And so they were running around and meeting the lawyers, going every day to the court, and then meeting the police, and so many problems he was creating. So they had to keep meeting so many people to try to remove the obstacles and get the land in the favor of the temple. So after running around and facing so many difficulties, and devotees had already shifted to that land in Juhu. And because the land was still not in the name of ISKCON, they had to build a temporary shed, and they had to live there with Radha Ras Bihari, deities. So devotees had to take a lot of austerity. They were living in very squalid conditions, and just a temporary shed is there, no proper flooring is there, and you know how it is so humid in Bombay during the summers. And these Westerners, they have come from a country where everything is climate controlled. So they are not used to this kind of environment. So devotees were falling sick, they were having dysentery, they were getting malaria, they were getting fever, and somehow they were managing. So after this went on for a few months, Tamal Krishna Maharaj and Shyamasundar, they started feeling that Prabhupada actually, because of his old age, and he has become very stubborn. He has realized he has made a mistake in trying to get this land. Actually, this land is useless. At that time, Juhu was in the outskirts of Bombay, not like today. So practically nobody would go there. And devotees every day to go to Bombay to meet people, they would have to travel 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers. So they were saying useless piece of land. And Prabhupada also knows that he has made a mistake, but simply because of false ego, stubbornly he doesn't want to take the land. And so what they did, they went and cancelled the agreement. So without Prabhupada's permission. So when Prabhupada came to know of it, Prabhupada was very upset. But then Prabhupada somehow salvaged the situation. He managed to again revive the agreement, and finally, by the transcendental will of Krishna, finally Prabhupada got the land for the temple. So after getting the land for the temple, Prabhupada actually revealed why he had been so stubborn and holding on, not allowing that Nair to get away with the land. Very easily he could have cancelled the agreement, got the money back, and said, forget it here. But Prabhupada did not do that. Why? Because Prabhupada reveals that after they got the land, Prabhupada said that we shifted the deities Radha and Krishna onto the land. After that, that man started playing games. So Prabhupada says, you know, something like this. These may not be his exact words, but I am paraphrasing what Prabhupada said. So Prabhupada says that I told Krishna that Krishna, I have made you come here. Now, if you have to go away from here, it will be a great insult for you, which I cannot tolerate. So somehow you stay here, I'll build you a temple. This was my prayer to Radha Ras Bihari. So you see, Prabhupada was neither senile, nor was he out of false ego, stubborn. It was none of these things. Prabhupada, out of transcendental love for Krishna, when you love somebody, you cannot tolerate the other person having to undergo any sort of insult. So Prabhupada could not tolerate that Krishna will be sent out of the land. He will be kicked out of the land. How can it happen? It will be a great insult for Krishna. Krishna is the Supreme Lord. Once he has set foot somewhere, it is his land. Nobody can claim that. So this is Krishna, this is Prabhupada's feeling. Externally, these devotees got misled, thinking that Prabhupada has become old, he is very stubborn, he has made a mistake. Actually, there was no mistake on Prabhupada's part. There was no false ego on his part. He was not thinking, oh, how this man will, he will cheat me, let me see, I'll fight with him. No, there was no, that kind of false ego was not there in Prabhupada. Prabhupada was only concerned, Krishna's honor should be protected. So, a pure devotee's actions externally might look like the activities of a common man. But the reasoning, the purpose, the intention behind those activities will all be transcendental. Similarly, Devahutis and Kardamumuni's activities externally appear like that of ordinary lusty desires, attractions between a man and a woman, but from the result we can judge that it is not so and it is completely transcendental. So these are some of the points we can understand from today's verse. If there are any questions or comments, we can discuss. Yes, please.
Good morning.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Sir, Prabhu, can you please explain the two words about the free will?
Free will.
Yes. Both opposition and people who support about it. Yeah. People who support free will and people who oppose free will. Both in spiritual wise and both in technology and atheist wise.
Yes. So when it comes to the spiritual, when it comes to the spiritual understanding, when we talk of free will, the living entities, we have to understand, Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita, Mamaivamcho Jivaloke Jivabhota Sanatanaha. All the living entities are amshas of Krishna. The Bhagavatam also and in the Vedic literature, the living entities are compared to sparks of fire. And Krishna, from whom we have all been created, is like a bonfire. He is like a blazing fire. So, the characteristics of the blazing fire and the spark emanating from that fire is the same. What is that? If you put a piece of paper into the fire, it will burn. If that spark falls on a piece of paper, it will make a small hole there. It will burn the paper to that extent. So the quality of burning is there in the fire as well as in the spark. But then the spark cannot burn the whole piece of paper. Whereas into the huge bonfire that is burning, you can put tons and tons of paper and it will consume everything. So the quantity is different, but the quality is the same. So when it comes to free will, Krishna has absolute free will. He can do whatever he wants. There is nothing that he cannot do. So that is the definition of God. God means he is Ishvara. He is the supreme controller. He can control anything. He can do anything he desires. He is not under any law, any rule, regulation. Nothing can prevent him from carrying out whatever he wants. His will is supreme. Whatever, but simply by willing, he can make things happen. So, in our case, because we are amshas, like Krishna, we also have free will. But the quantity of our free will is minute like the spark. Whereas Krishna's free will is absolute. He can do whatever he wants. Anything he wants, he can do. Whereas our free will, because it is limited, our free will is limited by so many boundaries. So many rules and regulations, so many criteria which will constrain our free will. Therefore, our free will is minute. Actually speaking, in reality, the living entity can exercise free will only to the extent of choosing whether to become a devotee of Krishna and serve him or to rebel against him. The moment I decide that no, I want to become a devotee of Krishna, I want to serve Krishna, I come under the control of Yoga Maya. So the Yoga Maya starts controlling my free will to be able to engage myself in serving the pleasure of Krishna. Whereas the moment I misuse my free will to become independent of Krishna, what will happen? Mahamaya will start controlling. Then the three modes of material nature, Sattva-guna, Rajoguna and Tamoguna, they will start dictating what I like, what I don't like, what I prefer, what my likings and dislikings are. Everything is determined by the three modes of material nature. Krishna explains in the Bhagavad-gita how the person's choice of food, his type of faith, his type of endeavor, the kind of activities he takes interest in, all these things are determined by the influence of the three modes of material nature. Under the force of illusion, we think that this is my liking, this is my disliking, I don't like this, so I will not do this, I like this, so I will do this. And so, under this illusion, we think these are my desires. But actually, these are not my desires. These are imposed upon me by the three modes of material nature. So, what we have to understand is, if you look at the example, one example we can take is of Valmiki Rishi. Valmiki Rishi, before he became Valmiki Muni, what was he? He was a dacoit. He used to catch people, murder them, all those things he used to do. So, at that point of time, when he was a dacoit, what was his liking? He used to like to catch people, kill them and loot their money. That was his natural liking. But after coming in touch with Narada Muni, he reformed. And when he reformed, what happened? His likings and dislikings changed. He stopped wanting to hurt people, to harm people. So he started disliking harming people. That means what? His likes and dislikes had changed. Because earlier when he was in Tamoguna, he liked to harm people. When he switched over to Sattva-guna, he stopped disliking this. His likings changed to something else. So, under the illusion, we think the modes of material nature, their influence, we think is actually my like and my dislike. And so, therefore, we think my free will I should utilize to satisfy whatever I like. But fact is what? My liking is also not in my control. It is being imposed upon me by the three modes of material nature. So, therefore, our free will is actually very, very limited. It is limited to the point of choosing to serve Krishna or not to serve Krishna. And once we are under the control of the three modes of material nature, we may engage in so-called activism, saying that I should have greater freedom, I should have freedom of speech, I should have freedom of this, I should have freedom of expression, I should have freedom of choice of dress, I should have freedom of choice of food, and all this we may tell. But actually they are not real freedom. They are not real free will. They are all the impositions of the three modes of material nature. So, therefore, what we have to understand is, in this material world, there is no absolute free will. Nobody has absolute free will. Therefore, even if somebody in a democracy wants freedom of speech, freedom of this, freedom of that, etc., there are certain constraints within which that freedom can be exercised. I have a freedom of choice of food. So, I will go and kill my neighbor and kill him and eat him. I like human flesh, so I will kill and eat him. Is it allowed? No, sir. Then immediately the police will catch me and put me behind bars. At that time, if I take the agreement, freedom of choice of food, I like eating human flesh, who are you to stop me? No, sir. Freedom of choice of food is up to a certain level. Beyond this, we cannot do. So, you see, everything there is a constraint. Freedom of travel. I can travel wherever I want. Yes, you can travel wherever you want, provided you drive your vehicle on the left side of the road in India. If you go to some other country, the USA, and say, in India I used to drive on the left side. So, here also I want to drive on the left side. Why? Choice. Freedom. It's my free will. Can you do that? No. Immediately you will be captured by the police and put behind bars. So, in this world also we have to understand, free will may be there, but it is limited. We cannot exercise unlimited free will. There is a certain boundary, there are certain constraints within which we can exercise our free will. We cannot possess absolute free will, neither in the spiritual world nor in the material world. Only in the spiritual world, the only person who possesses absolute free will is Krishna. Rest of all of us jivas, we have only limited free will. So, once a living entity understands this, then he will not be very much perturbed by the availability or non-availability of exercise of free will within this material world. These kind of situations will keep changing. The political situation in a country will keep changing. Today, we have a certain concept of free will and freedom and democracy and all those kind of things. Tomorrow, if democracy goes, some other political system comes into play. Suppose tomorrow democracy goes up, everywhere communism comes in. What will happen? All free will gone. You will have no more free will. So, this kind of availability or non-availability of free will, depending upon the different circumstances which are prevailing in the material world, are immaterial. A devotee is not so much concerned about that. He is concerned about using his free will properly, what is within his control. What is within my control, my free will, I can choose to serve Krishna. So do that, serve Krishna, go back to God. That's all. That okay? Anybody else? Yes, please.
Actually, in India, because of this ancient Vedic civilization, the knowledge of how to lead the life is there in the Vedas. So people know that this knowledge has come from a higher source. Whereas in Europe, they have not learned laws of physics or laws of chemistry from the Bible. Everything has been figured out by the scientists.
Yeah.
So previously they were having no knowledge, and now by the efforts of all scientists, they have figured out and created a whole civilization. So the hope is there that whatever we don't know, we will figure out the way we have figured out so many things in the last 200 years. So that's why they are so much not interested in God or supernatural things. Is that correct?
Maybe to some extent, but what we have to understand also is that despite all that, there are many scientists who, after a lot of research and delving deeply into science, they come to the conclusion finally that there is a God behind this creation. There are so many scientists like that. There are so many Nobel laureates like that. So the point is that the sincerity of the soul. How sincere is the soul in finding out the truth? If there is a sincere seeking in the heart, then Krishna, the Paramatma, will guide and give him the intelligence to understand that there is a God behind this creation. If the Jiva doesn't have that seeking in the heart, then Krishna will give him the firm conviction that there is no God behind this creation. So both kinds of scientists you can find. Scientists who are Nobel laureates for inventing many things or discovering many things, they will be firmly convinced that there is a God behind this creation. And there are many scientists, Nobel laureates, who have discovered, invented many things, and there are many scientists who have never invented or discovered anything also becoming atheists. That also is there. So these two classes of people, whether one is a theist or an atheist, has been there even in Vedic civilization. Even in Vedic civilization, there was Hiranyakashipu, who was well versed in the Vedic scriptures. Kamsa, he did not know the Vedas or what, he also knew. But they had no faith in Krishna. They had no understanding that there is a supreme Lord behind this creation. So the availability or non-availability of the Vedic knowledge is not the real deciding criterion. The real deciding criterion is, as the Upanishad states, Dva Suparna Sayuja Sakhaya Samane Vrikshe Parishasva Jate. The true living entities are in the heart, and Paramatma and the Atma. Paramatma is waiting, when will the Jiva turn towards me? The moment the Jiva turns towards the Paramatma, Paramatma will give him all the conviction, knowledge, everything will be given. That is how we understand. Okay, we'll stop here. Grantharaj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.